Hey, what's up everybody? This is Superk501 and today I want to go over all of the stat and affix roles in Diablo 4. Now in my last video I went over gearing and itemization, but that was more specifically looking at the mechanics and overarching systems of itemization. In this video I want to go over all of the different main stats, the affixes, and the weapon specific roles I could find in all the information we have for Diablo 4. And I'm also going to be splitting this video up into two parts. The first part, we're going to be going over all of the different stats and affixes I could specifically find in all of the officially released information in the quarterly updates. So looking at all the items and all the information we could find that was specifically released by the developers. And then at the end of the video, I want to go over a Reddit post that was made over 3 years ago that goes over all of the different stats that was found in the demos of the game when the game was originally revealed at BlizzCon. And I'm just going to be going over all of these stats as they've appeared on items in the quarterly updates. So I'm just going to be listing out the stat and you guys will be able to see the images of these items to see the stats on the items. Now there are going to be some stats I'm not going over because specifically in some of the first posts about the game, there are images of really old work in progress items that specifically have angelic and demonic stats on those, which is a system that was scrapped from the game. So I don't want to go over any other stats on those items because they're so old and part of the stats on them we know are already scrapped. So we're just going to go over all the items that still have stats on them that haven't specifically been scrapped and removed from the game. And first I want to go over the 4 primary stats, which consist of strength, intelligence, willpower, and dexterity. Now for every single class in the game, they will all get the same defensive buffs from these main stats. So from strength, you get defense increase, intelligence, you get all resistance increase, willpower, you get healing received increase, and dexterity, you get improved dodge chance. Now depending on what class you're on, you will also get offensive bonuses from 3 of the stats. So for instance, a barbarian gets skill damage increase from strength, resource generation from willpower, and critical strike chance from dexterity. But if you go over to a sorcerer, you would get skill damage from intelligence, critical strike from willpower, and resource generation from dexterity. So all classes get the same defensive buffs from main stats, and depending on the class, you'll get similar offensive buffs from different main stats. Now you can get main stats in a handful of ways. The primary way is every time you level up, you're going to get 5 points to put into main stats, and there's going to be 100 levels. The second main way is you're going to be getting a lot of primary stats from the Paragon board, which is an endgame progression system. I've gone over that in another video. And then you can also get main stat rolls on pretty much any gear piece in the game. And next up, we have weapon specific stats because every weapon type in Diablo 4 will have a different attack speed, which will also affect the speed of channeling or casted attacks. And then they will also roll with their own weapon specific stat. So for instance, we have wands, which are a very fast weapon, and wands will roll with critical strike chance on them. It seems to be a random percentage chance. Then we have something like a staff, which is a slow weapon and rolls percentage resource regeneration. Then we also got to see axes, which are a fast weapon. And the first time we saw axes, it said that they have a percent chance to bleed for percent damage over 5 seconds. But then we got to see a newer screenshot of an axe, and that newer axe had percent critical strike damage on it instead of the bleed. So I'm not sure if it's just been changed from the bleed to the crit damage, or if these are 2 different types of axes because they weren't labeled as like a one-handed or two-handed axe. So I'm assuming this was just changed so axes will now have crit damage on them. And these weapon specific stats do not affect the affix rolls on the weapons at all. These are something that are just specific to what weapon type it is. So now we have all of the different affix rolls, which seem to just be random rolls on any gear piece in the game. Most likely there will be some specific rolls that can only roll on certain things, but most if not all of these are probably probably just going to be completely random rolls on most items in the game. And I'm going to be going through these as they appear on different items. So for number 1, we have percent damage to immobilized enemies. We have plus life regeneration. Then we have a hit effect, which is a percent immobilization chance. Then on this item, we got to see one of the main stat rolls. So here, I'm just going to be putting strength, intelligence, willpower, dexterity. If you can see one main stat roll on an item, you know we're going to be getting all other main stat rolls as well. Then we have percent crit chance, and then finally percent overpowered damage. On number 2, we have plus life on hit, percent damage to elites, and another hit effect, which is a percent chance to execute and injure an enemy that is a non-elite. Then on number 3, we have percent damage to vulnerable enemies. Then we have a percent overpowered chance. Number 4, we have a percent elite damage reduction, so you take reduced damage from elites. We have percent control duration bonus. Now I don't know exactly what this is. It seems to be that this is just going to increase the duration of CC on enemies. Then we have percent movement speed on elite kill. Then we have plus thorns, so enemies take damage when they hit you. Then we have a percent cold resistance. Now presumably we would also be getting all the different elemental resistances, so fire, poison, etc. But this is the only elemental resistance we see on these items. Then we have percent dodge chance, percent movement speed increase, plus maximum mana. This is sorcerer only. Then we have percent range damage. Then again, we have percent mana cost reduction. And again, this is sorcerer only. Then we have plus skill ranks. Then we have percent lightning damage increase. And the same with the elemental resistances. You'd assume that we would have elemental damage increase for all of the different elements. Then we have a percent damage while healthy. So you deal more damage the higher health you are. This would probably be like if you're above 80%, you get a damage boost. Then we have plus maximum life. And then we have percent cooldown reduction. On number 5, we have percent reduced potion cooldown. Then we have plus to all stats. We have percent melee damage, percent attack speed, and then percent damage reduction. So this would just reduce all damage you take. Then we have number 6, we have another hit effect, which is a percent slow chance. Then number 7, we have another hit effect, which is a percent stun chance. Then we have percent damage to slowed enemies. And then number 8, we have plus maximum fury, which is barbarian only, and percentage fury cost reduction, which is barbarian only. And we could also presume that there would be different stats for every single class. So whatever different type of resource a class would use, it would probably have an increase to the maximum you can have, a cost reduction, and possibly other class specific stats. And that is all the different affixes I could find on items specifically in the quarterly updates, which are officially released by Blizzard. So now I want to go over the Reddit post that is a compiled list of different stats that people were able to find in the demo of Diablo 4 when the game was officially revealed. So first off, we have defensive affixes. We have max life increase, percent damage reduction, percent dodge chance, percent damage reduction from enemies within melee range, percent damage reduction from enemies out of melee range, percent fire resistance, percent lightning resistance, percent cold resistance, and percent poison resistance. Then we have percent reduced damage from elites, bosses, and players. Then we have percent reduced duration of enemy control impairing effects. So you're CC'd less. And also keep in mind, this was from over 3 years ago. There will most likely be a lot more stats not shown on this list. There will probably be some of these stats either changed in some way or removed. And then probably over time, once a game is released, we'll be getting more stats. So then under offensive, we have percent attack speed, percent critical strike chance, percent critical strike damage, percent increased duration of control impairing effects, percent damage, percent physical damage, percent damage to stun targets, immobilized targets, vulnerable targets, then percent damage to enemies in melee range, percent damage to enemies out of melee range, percent damage to slowed targets, percent increased damage against elites, percent fire, cold, and lightning damage. Then we have 4 hit effects, which are increased percent chance to slow, percent increased chance to slow on crit, percent increased chance to stun, and then percent increased chance to stun on crit. Then under resource management, which these are the class specific ones, we have plus maximum mana for sorcerers only, plus maximum fury for barbarians only, percent reduced fury cost for skills, barbarian only, percent reduced spirit cost for skills, which is druid only, and percent reduced mana cost for skills, sorcerer only. So again, like I mentioned, we could presume that there will be these type of stats for every single class. For instance, we also get to see reduced cost for spirit for druids here. Most likely there would also be one that increases your maximum spirit. Then we have other, which is more utility. So percent cooldown reduction, percent movement speed for 6 seconds on elite kill, and plus skill rank. So that is all of the different affixes compiled from the demo from 3 years ago. And most of these stats we did go over earlier in this video. We do have some that also aren't in this list. And then we have some in this list that aren't in any of the quarterly updates. And I would also assume, like I mentioned, some of these are probably going to be changed. Some might be removed. And most likely there are going to be a lot more in the game, even on release, that we have not yet to have seen. Like I mentioned, I don't think anywhere we've seen, say, increased poison damage, but we can pretty much guarantee that that will be a thing. And then like we went over, there will probably be more stats for the resources for all the different classes. So probably a good chunk of additional possible affix roles will be in the game on launch. And my general thoughts on this is, I have said this before, but I do like their direction they're going with Diablo 4. It seems like it is going to be a lot more complex of a game than Diablo 3, and potentially even more complex of a game than Diablo 2, with how much different systems and stats they're giving us to create builds, create the playstyle we want, and experiment with other builds. Whether it's coming from main stats, all the different affixes, the different roles they're going to be coming on all the different weapon types in the game, then going to your class skill trees, then going to your endgame paragon system, and so on. There's going to be a lot of build variation, build creation, and tons of different playstyles and builds to use throughout the game. And I think that is a really good place for Diablo 4 to be in. I think being more complex than Diablo 3 especially, possibly being more complex than Diablo 2, but not being as complex as something like Path of Exile, I think that is a good middle ground for Diablo 4 to have. But that's pretty much all I want to go over. So subscribe if you want to see more Diablo 4 or other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about all these stats and affixes, and thanks for watching.